The special contingency plan for the curtailment of electric energy in Alabama was discussed by power company officials during a 6-point telephone hookup to key cities in the state, originating in Birmingham. A 5-phase plan will be presented to the Public Service Commission for its consideration tomorrow. Should it become necessary to move out of the present voluntary conservation stage, or Phase 1, the next step would involve some mandatory requirements to reduce the consumption of electricity. Alan Barton, Alabama Power Company Executive Vice President, says settlement of the coal strike will dictate what conservation measures will be taken.
This morning we have equivalent of 43 days supply of coal on hand. This is a little over 1 million tons. Talk about days supply is rather difficult to express. This coal would last us 43 days if we burned as our budget says we can burn. Fortunately, in the last few weeks, we have been able to buy power from our neighbors, cut our burn down. That's why we've been able to hold our stocks about constant for the past several weeks. We also received a first shipload of Australian coal last week. That increased our stocks. Hope that if the miners go back to work this week, these stocks will be adequate to carry us over until we start receiving new coal.
Bob Huffman, who manages operations services for Alabama Power, said the contingency plans are subject to revision. He said the possibilities of blackouts are less today than last week. He said it would be difficult to give customers notification of specific areas of blackouts, as recommended by PS Commissioner Jim Ziegler. Huffman said there was nothing done intentionally by the power company to mislead Governor Wallace on possible blackouts in Alabama. He said it was a breakdown of communications between officials of the company in the governor's office and those at the company headquarters in Birmingham. The proposed energy consumption formula is expected to be clarified tomorrow when the PSC and power company officials get together. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
The PSC adopted the revisions after complaints from Alabama Power that Phase 1 of the original plan, a broad, open request for voluntary energy cutbacks, was only producing about a 3% reduction. Therefore, it was felt a specific target level was necessary. It was also speculated one of the most efficient ways to convince the general public that conservation is necessary is for the retail business to set an example. Charles McDonald is the executive director of the Alabama Retail Association, which has about 1,000 member stores statewide.
We've asked the retail community to set an example for industrial and residential customers in the curtailment of their electricity usages. We've done that by requesting that they follow 3 or 4 suggested ways to cut down electricity usages. 1, we've asked that they eliminate display lighting. 2, we've asked that they turn off all but 1 store sign. 3, we've asked that they reduce light levels in stores. We've asked that they turn off all TV sets in their display of TVs. We've asked them to post signs telling their customers that they're trying to save electricity and ask their customers to do the same things at home. And we've asked them to put conservation messages in all of their advertising to emphasize the problems that this state faces in the coal shortage.
One of the largest energy consumers is the super retail store. At this one in Montgomery Mall, all of the measures recommended by the Retail Association have already been met. In the television department, display sets, which are usually blaring in living color, remain black unless a customer requests to see one. On a normal day, these light fixtures would all be turned up bright. Now they remain dark. And these drapery displays have built-in artificial sunlight. They too are turned off until a customer arrives. And just in case customers don't immediately recognize these measures, signs are posted to remind them. Similar signs are posted at this grocery store in southwest Montgomery. The total lighting inside the store has been reduced by 50%. Special protective covering is placed over the produce counter at night to keep the refrigeration to a minimum. Likewise, styrofoam covers are placed in the deep freeze display case. It's still too early to tell just how much energy is being saved by the various conservation measures, but store owners admit Even if a definite settlement in the coal strike is reached soon, the amount of money saved will be evident in next month's power bills. This is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News reporting.
Elmore Botsai heads the country's architects, and during a visit to Montgomery today, Botsai said the people who designed buildings were totally unprepared for the dwindling supplies of coal and oil.
I think without question we're going to have to change our method of doing business. We're going to have to recognize that this is reality. It's not scare tactics, that we do have, at least with the immediate next quarter century, a finite limitation on fossil fuel resources. I think it'll be a benefit to the long-range growth of this country and my profession when we learn how to utilize other resources. For example, here in Montgomery, I would imagine that at least a third of the year you could deal in natural climate and have very livable spaces. In fact, probably nicer than you currently have with controlled atmosphere.
Solar energy, natural air currents, and the use of groundwater as energy sources is what could be replacements for existing sources. Botsai also said sunshades, reflective roofs, and other innovative plans are available to architects. But he says they are not economical at this time.
Architect Botsai says his profession already has the necessary skills to construct structures that will require 60% less energy than is being used now. But he says there are no tax incentives to do that. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
Unseasonably cold weather has been a problem for Alabama farmers all winter, and the forecast calls for more of the same through at least mid-April. The same goes for moisture, with above normal rainfall expected. Unworkable soils laden with surplus rain continue to delay field work and the planting of corn, cotton, peanuts, and vegetables. Seedling diseases may be a problem for some crops or where untreated poor seed is used. The Auburn Extension Service says soil temperatures may be cooler than normal for the next 30 days due to cooler air temperatures. 4-inch depth soil temperatures for northern counties at this time of year average in the 60s and in the 70s for southern counties, but temperatures at the 4-inch depth should be cooler than that at least through mid-April. Rainfall for the next 30 days normally is between 5 and 6 inches, but more can be expected according to the agricultural forecast. Wet weather may cause moisture problems in poultry houses, and frosts are still likely in peach-producing areas. Cool, wet weather will restrict the growth of pastures. Cattle will likely need additional supplemental feed until pastures improve. Dick Bird, WSFA TV News, reporting.
We didn't expect to get down as far as we did at halftime, but maintained our poise and came back in great shape second half, and I was real proud of our players to do that. I also give credit to Michigan State. Super ball game, super bunch of guys, and well coached. Their zone was as tough as we've ever faced. We could not get the ball inside, and fortunately, we were not shooting well outside, and that put a lot of pressure on us, and our kids held up. Macy's free throw shooting in the end was really what we needed, and looked like they fouled the wrong man.
When I got fouled, I approached the line trying to concentrate on every shot, going through the form that I've been taught as I was growing up, and just concentrate on putting the ball in the hole.
There was a lot of pressure on you, and let me ask you something. So many people talk about Kentucky pressure. As a guy who came over to the Kentucky program from another school, is there more pressure playing for the Wildcats?
Well, I think we take it serious throughout the week. A lot of teams might not go that hard in practice, but we try to go hard each day we take out on the floor, and I think it has a positive effect when we get in the game situation with a lot of pressure on it.
Marksmen from across the state participated in a shooting contest held at the GM Range in Mount Meigs. Contestants were divided into 4 categories, ranging from marksman to master class according to their shooting ability. Price Micklemore of Montgomery took first place title in the marksman class, and Randy Chestnut, also of Montgomery, finished in 3rd place. In the sharpshooter class, Mike Wilson took first place, followed by Chuck Stewart and Mike Henderson. In the expert class, John Herring captured the first place position, and in the masters class, it was Bo Boytz of Troy taking first place, followed by Montgomery's George Gale in 2nd. Today's match is one of several monthly events that will be held throughout the year in conjunction with the shooting contest sponsored by the Troy State University Criminal Justice Department. In Mount Meigs, this is Emery Stapleton, WSFA TV Sports, reporting.
My resignation was mutually agreed upon by Dr. Philpott and me, and so as of now, I'm no longer the basketball coach at Auburn University. But let me hasten to say a few things about that field. It's been a great experience for me, and Dr. Philpott is really a sincere, wonderful person, and there's so many great people here at Auburn. Auburn University is outside of 1 or 2. Have just tremendous people, and the student body, and it was great to me all the time I was here, and was fantastic, and I really had tremendous alumni support from a lot of people, and all the good things that happened to me was they were, it was really worth the experience here, and so, I thank all those people that support me. But my leaving was based on just actually the record. I mean, that was just all. The record just wasn't what I thought it should be, what the team thought it should be, the staff, the alumni. I don't think anybody agreed that our record, although we were above 500, that wasn't enough. We should have been in the top 4 all the way. Oh, no, it's that it was. I told you it was only the record, but see, there's nothing about that anyway, because we have statements that have cleared that up completely. So that has absolutely nothing to do with it. Outside of 1 or 2 people that I'll refrain from mention, I feel like it, particularly, I think 1 person and possibly 2 really haven't given me any support whatsoever. Now, the administration, Dr. Philpott, was 100% behind me, and there's no question about that. But there are other people in a power position that just didn't give us the support. Now, if they give the next guy the same support they got me, they've condemned her to death. I'll tell you right now, because if they don't have more support than I had, there's no hope for the program. And of course, I fought it against it and made it go, but it wasn't. I don't have any. Everybody else tried to help me, and that was the difference. So.
Your hosts, Ivy Berman and Bob Howell.
Rail accidents come similar questions about the cargo which travels on our highways and city streets. Norman Lumpkin of our staff explored that situation and has this report.
Each year, hundreds of thousands of trucks travel through the state of Alabama, and Public Service Commission officials say 1% of those vehicles transport potentially dangerous or hazardous materials. The cargoes include dynamite, TNT, compressed gases, gasoline, and many other deadly loads. Some trucks are improperly marked, and many are known to use midtown routes through heavily populated areas in violation of state laws, and that's causing concern among PSC commissioners.
The Public Service Commission does have regulatory authority over all of those truck lines which operate as common carriers. And I am asking the Commission to take the strongest steps legally possible to strengthen the safety precautions taken by the common carrier truck lines.
What do you think would be the best thing to do to minimize the possibility of a truck accident where a truck would contain explosives or some caustic chemicals?
I think the 2 most important things are very stringent inspection of all the vehicles which carry hazardous materials to make sure that they're in the safest possible condition. And secondly, the proper training of drivers and other people who handle hazardous materials so that they will know, number one, how to avoid accidents, and number two, what precautionary steps to take when there is an accident.
State PSC inspectors say they know trucks have been violating a very dangerous areas of laws in Mobile. Truckers there are said to be carrying hazardous cargoes and have been traveling through that city's underwater tunnel. John Carter is Chief of Enforcement for the PSC. Sergeant Harold Lovelace is an officer in that same division. Carter explained the situation, and Lovelace told of the proper markings for trucks loaded with dangerous cargoes.
Of course, we increase every year the number of trucks that's registered in the state of Alabama, so that means there's more trucks coming through. But it's not greater now. I think that it's been brought to the public more by this happening in a populated area than it has in the past.
Situations with the freight cars derailing and the tragedy that occurred because of that, has that made people more aware in your business?
Well, my business is not railroads. Right. That's a different branch altogether, but it has brought it to the eye of the public, these things that's happening now. And as of the first of the year, we adapted DOT's safety regulation and regulations pertaining to hazardous materials transported within the state or through the state.
What are some of the things that are carried by these trucks?
Well, explosives, dynamite, compressed gases and whatnot.
Compressed gases?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
What is the most serious violation you can have on a truck that carries potentially dangerous chemicals and explosives?
Well, a leak, for instance, on gas or on explosives, being around open flames and whatnot, and having an unsafe vehicle, brakes or the mechanical parts of the truck going bad on.
Do you find these violations on trucks?
Really, we haven't gotten into the checking the trucks for hazardous material, but we have been safety checking vehicles in the past, which was practically the same thing. And as of the first of the year, our regulations changed, and we adapted these safety regulations where we can stop a truck on the highway and safety inspect him, and if he is in bad shape, we can require him to go to the nearest facility to be repaired.
In other words, the actual checking of trucks for hazardous materials has not really gotten underway yet.
It has not, but within the next 3 weeks it will get underway. Sure will, here in the state, because we plan on setting up roadblocks throughout the state, and one place in particular is Mobile, with the tunnel there in Mobile. We have received information from the Department of Transportation that they have received word that there could be trucks going through the tunnel there that are removing these placards and carrying explosives through the tunnel. But
why would they remove the placards and go through the tunnel?
Well, it'd save time by going through the tunnel rather than taking a detour around the city.
Now, if he gets anything aboard that fits into the category of dangerous and dangerous, he will flip this flip-flop on it, okay, and this will be displayed around the vehicle. Then if he goes into heavier stuff, then he will indicate oxidizers. Okay, if he's got something on there that's flammable, he'll flip this one, and these stay open in transit. Then he gets radioactive. If he's got a radioactive material aboard, he displays this. Now, he usually has on his bills what this radioactive material is. He may not necessarily know what it takes to neutralize it, but he can produce the information. Flammable gas, if he's got something like this aboard the vehicle, this can be cigarette gas, and this is different. It depends on the classification, of course. And then corrosive material, battery acid, and so forth and so on. And then compressed gas. And this is, and then poison. And these are all warnings around the vehicle to what this vehicle is loaded with. And like I say, if he doesn't have it aboard, then he flips it over here to drive safely, and his equipment's there.
Truck stop owners and truckers don't seem to be too alarmed over the situation.
Well, I don't think the potential is too great. There's always a danger, but usually the companies that haul this type of material are very aware of the dangers involved, and they try to use good personnel and good equipment.
Well, always our friends that haul gasoline, transport gasoline around, they're always concerned about hauling gas, getting in close situations, somebody running into them, and the danger of fire.
At this point, state officials say a true assessment of the situation will not be made for several weeks. And they add, until that is done, the true potential for a disaster will not be known. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News for Composite.
Okay, time. Reset the clockaroo, Early Barnes, Kentucky. Montgomery County. What did I say, Kentucky? For 28?
Excuse me, folks. Over the lid law, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
Can you give us any kind of comment at all?
At the proper time, I will make a statement. Right now, I don't really know what all's happening.
Where are you heading now?
Wherever we're supposed to go.
And that's
He was on the phone.
Pepper, would you give us an interview? I wish I could. I know you do all right.
Can you give us any kind of comment at all?
At the proper time, I will make a statement. Right now, I don't really know what all's happening.
Where are you heading now?
Wherever we're supposed to go.
And that's
He
where?
was on the phone.
Here at the county courthouse, it took approximately 20 minutes for State Treasurer Melbatil Allen to be fingerprinted, booked, and to pay $4,000 in bonds.
One of the indictments charged Mrs. Allen with placing state funds in the American Bank of Geneva in exchange for loans or credit for herself, her family, or her business interests. She is also charged with demanding or receiving a fee or reward for the deposit of state funds in the American Bank of Geneva. Another indictment charges the state treasurer with using her office for the same purpose with the Birmingham Bank. Still another charge is that Mrs. Allen solicited or accepted the use of a plane and pilot owned by a bank controlled by Florida banker E.A. Gregory. The grand jury's investigation of Mrs. Allen began last January at the request of the State Ethics Commission, which found through its own investigation, and I'm quoting now, probable cause to believe Mrs. Allen violated state ethics laws through her personal financial dealings with banks holding state deposits.
Today's indictments against Mrs. Allen comes more than 6 months after a lot of publicity and much investigation into alleged financial wrongdoing in the state treasurer's office. Mrs. Allen is expected to be arraigned on the charges within 10 days. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
Thank you, Pat. My golf was lousy. Here in Montgomery in 1977 was kind of a bad year. Contrary to things on the national scene where the FBI reports that crime declined generally and serious crime was down about 6%. In Montgomery, serious crime was up almost 6%. Now, I'm talking about things like armed robbery, murder, forcible rape, burglary, which is, in my humble opinion, was and is our biggest problem, auto theft, assault to murder, these sorts of things. If you want to throw in all the minor incidents which go on that comprise the some 10,000 offenses for which we pick people up, crime declined slightly, but I worry most about the ones I cited in particular. You might say, well, how come it's down on the national scene? I might add that this is not universally true, but here in the South, I note that other cities, many other cities of our approximate population and growth pattern had a similar experience. Not all, but several. Huntsville, for one. You obviously going to say, how come? Why? What are you doing about it? Well, if I knew exactly what was causing it, I'd do something about it. But I don't. I have a theory. I think the Sun Belt, as it attracts growth, population increases, prosperity, if you will, we also attract some folks that are down here to make money in more devious ways. For example, this past year, our biggest burglaries, the so-called silver burglars, were not the locals, not that we don't have our fair share of the locals. We have a pretty good idea who they are. But these were people from places like St. Paul, Omaha, Kansas City, and unfortunately some of them are still in business. The biggest drug incident of the year, and we don't have, and I'm not painting too glowing a picture, but we haven't had too much hard drugs. Our biggest drug bust of the year, some $250,000 to $300,000 worth of heroin, which we picked up at one of the local motels. 3 people from New York and 1 from Miami. What in the world they were doing in Montgomery peddling that stuff in the fashion in which they were attempting to peddle it beside me. But this is just to illustrate or to attempt to support my theory a little bit that the Sun Belt and the towns like Montgomery, Columbus, and the rest were no longer little sleepy southern towns by a long shot. So our picture in 77 wasn't too good. 78, it's too early to establish a trend, but we're about the same as we were at the end of 77. With armed robbery and burglary, our biggest problem areas at the present time.
Secretary of the Air Force John Stetson made the announcement today in Washington that Maxwell's Air University will no longer be a separate major command. Instead, it will become one of Air Training Command's 14 bases. But officials say the university will continue normal operations at Maxwell, and it will retain its current title. The Air Force said it was making the realignment in an effort to consolidate responsibility for its recruiting, training, and educational programs. Air University Commander Lieutenant General Raymond Furlong says he can foresee no appreciable effect from the move on the city of Montgomery or Maxwell Air Force Base.
I think there are opportunities for Air University to profit from this. ATC is a very large command with a lot of responsibilities, and we might indeed be able to earn some of the responsibilities they now have.
General Furlong says the realignment could also give the Air University more clout with the Air Force, whereas in past years, the general has had to deal directly with the Air Force Chief of Staff personally. Now the commander of Air Training Command, General John Roberts, will do so. The Air University used to be the smallest major command in the Air Force, but now with the reorganization, it will become a part of the largest command with about 120,000 personnel. This is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News, Maxwell Air Force Base.
The meeting was held in the mayor's office, and the media was not allowed to be in on it or to be able to ask people what they were going to discuss. After the meeting was over, we got a chance to ask questions.
There's a possibility that we might be able to work out a compromise on the situation before the day is out.
Could you tell us what that compromise might be?
No, if I had known, we would be meeting later this afternoon. I don't know as of yet, but it is concerning, the various areas to be annexed. Joe and Charles, myself, and 2 or 3 other people going to go in and discuss it, and at that time we'll make a decision whether we're going to let the bill come up for a vote or kill it.
What is the hang-up? What is it that you object to, you and Representative Langford? Why can't you reach some kind of compromise?
Well, of course, the main question is that we want annexation, but we don't want annexation at the expense of equality. We want both equality and annexation. And the main question is we want to make sure that the blacks, we have 4 blacks on the city council, that no blacks should lose their seat.
How close is the mayor to reach an agreement with you on this?
Well, I don't know. We haven't made any final decision. I think that we're going to be able to work that part out, though.
Bringing folk in the city of Montgomery is one thing, but where these folk are located, how they're distributed, where blacks are located and where whites are located has a lot of difference on whether or not you will have 4 council members. You can bring folk in and wind up losing a council member. And anybody who says anybody shucking and jiving don't know the figures, they haven't looked at the facts, and they are yakking, but they're not facking. And this is a very serious matter, and it's a matter that we cannot play with. So we got to look at the whole question, because getting 4 black council members wasn't easy in the beginning. And we don't plan to lose them by simply throwing our hands up saying somebody wants to come in. If they want to come in at the expense of 4 black council members, they don't come in.
We are willing to meet now, but we will have to discuss some things, and we hope that we will have a meeting later on this afternoon. The time has not been set.
How close are you to a compromise?
I believe that we are pretty close to it, and I believe that there is a possibility that we may reach some agreement.
Today?
Possible.
At this point, it appears that it's up to the mayor to reach an agreement with the 3 black politicians, or the bill won't go through the state legislature. Another meeting is scheduled this afternoon. What time it will be, we do not know yet. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News, City Hall.
Can I have another copy?
Yeah.
We ought to say very clearly that I think that the blacks are taking the risk. And I'm not any more elated.
Of course, the bill can be challenged on in 1965. We had 3 items that we discussed with the mayor yesterday, in addition to the agreement that all the city councilmen signed, which says that under the new annex area, that no person will be gerrymandered out of their district. In addition to that, we agreed to have 3 voting districts instead of 4. We'd originally proposed 4. We also agreed to introduce a new bill to add a portion of the Alabama River into the city limits. We also agreed that the city of Montgomery, in extending services to the areas that are not currently in the city limits, that the city of Montgomery will first provide city services to those neighborhoods with existing homes based on need and availability of funds. Now, this has been agreed to by Joe Reed and myself and Representative Charles Langford and the mayor and Willie Peak.
We're bringing in some 18,000 folks, and out of 18,000 folks, only about 3,000 and a half or 4,000 of it, the most, can be used for, the black. We're bringing 18,000. 6,000 are black. It's about a third. But about 3,000 of the black are in areas that cannot be used to increase the black ratio in black council districts. They are in East Montgomery. So what they will do, they will increase blacks in the white council districts, but that won't be enough to offset the outcome of an election. And so we are also increasing the whites in the black council district by 3,000. So the 6,000 we're talking about black, that's what one of my major concerns. We're bringing in 6,000 blacks, but 3,000 can't be used for black districts, and that's risk. And I don't want anybody ever suggest we're not taking risk. For those folk who say that blacks are not trying to work for the growth of Montgomery are wrong, and we are taking a chance. I think we can work it out. It will be worked out.
I've got some serious reservations, George, about the so-called compromise that's been worked out on the bill. What has happened is this. As I understand, the affected area is divided into 3 areas, and each area can vote on whether or not to come into the city. Now, I think this defeats the very purpose of the bill in the beginning, was to get an area in order that the city of Montgomery could have some planned growth. Now, if the so-called compromise goes through, then it means that we would still have piecemeal annexation, and I'm opposed to piecemeal annexation, so I have some serious reservations about it.
You have to further study it before you will kill the bill or take a different route?
I'm in the process now of trying to determine if the vote will pass all 3 areas. And if the vote will pass all 3 areas, then I will favor the compromise. I will go along with the compromise. If I conclude that any of the 3 areas will not come into the city, then I had rather the bill be killed, and I will let those who are killing it take that responsibility.
The proposed loan referred to in the indictment of Melba Till Allen by the Montgomery Grand Jury, which names the National Bank of Commerce, was never made. It was promptly turned down. With respect to the other loan with Mrs. Melba Till Allen, I will not divulge the loan amount. This is confidential information never given out of any customer. However, I will say that the loan was of a nominal amount and one of long time standing with this bank.
I fully support the importance that the President's placed on developing a national energy program. This is really the first time that we've had this much emphasis being placed nationally on developing a national energy plan. I support the importance that the President has placed on conservation also, but this is a matter that I think must be looked at with care, because economic activity in this country has closely followed energy usage. And by a reduction in energy usage, we don't want to pull the economy down into a depression. All I'm saying is that conservation is something that has to be handled with care. Thirdly, conservation is only one half of the equation. The other half is developing our domestic energy potential. And it is in that area that I think the President's national energy plan
could use improvement. We need more emphasis, I think, on developing our oil and gas potential, on developing our nuclear power potential. And we need emphasis on developing our coal potential, which is what the President wants. But he also wants to strengthen environmental restrictions, and that may make it impossible to develop the coal that the President wants to develop.